If you're considering moving to Mount Airy, Maryland, and you're wondering, are you making the right decision? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to go over the pros, the cons, the good and bad of living in Mount Airy so you can determine whether or not it's the right place for you to move to. So let's just jump right into it. Hey everyone, my name is Eddie and I'm a realtor here in Maryland. And if this is your first time visiting the channel, thank you for being here. I've made it my mission to help people just like you determine the best places to move in Maryland. I give you the market updates, the top neighborhoods, the best places to live all across Maryland so you can make your move go as smoothly as possible. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And before we jump into the pros and cons, let's go over some quick facts about Mount Airy itself. So Mount Airy is located in what's known as Central Maryland. It sits at the intersection of I-70 and Route 27, and that's the same I-70 which will take you all the way to Utah, so it's obviously a major commuter route, which we'll talk more about in a minute, and it has a population of just under 10,000 residents, and at the time of this video, it's ranked as the 8th best place to buy a house in Maryland. It also sits at the intersection of 4 counties, Carroll, Frederick, Howard, and Montgomery County, which makes it fairly unique as far as cities go in Maryland. So what are the good things about living in Mount Airy? Well, I'd have to say the first pro of living here is the value you get for your money. And that's because people that move here generally move here because they're working in a place that is much more expensive to buy a house. Maybe they work in Northern Virginia, DC, closer to Annapolis, and they want to find somewhere where they can get more for their money, a bigger house, more land, or both, and that's what brings them to Mount Airy. And because Mount Airy isn't a major employment hub, that means that you don't have those skyrocketing prices like you have in other areas like maybe southern Montgomery County. And with that, people kind of ignore Mount Airy because it looks like it's really far out of the way up off of Route 70, but what they don't realize is how easy it is to get around here. And that brings us to the second pro of living in Mount Airy, which is that it's the ideal commuter location. You can commute to downtown Baltimore in about 35 minutes with no traffic, and that's all on I-70 until you get right outside of the city, which is really great. Unless there's an accident, the commute really isn't that bad. You have a couple slowdowns around Route 29 and 695, but other than that, a pretty nice commute. You can also get over to Fort Meade in about 40 minutes, which is also a great commute. You have I-70 and Route 32. Route 32 is now 4-lane highway all the way, so that makes it a much easier drive than it used to be just a few years ago. And if you're trying to get to Frederick, it's only 20 minutes on I-70. And the great thing about I-70 right in this area is it's also paralleled by Route 144. So if you ever do have an accident on 70 that you have to get around, you just hop on 144 and you can go all the way to Baltimore that way, or you can go all the way to Frederick. But the value for your money and the commute aren't the only good things about living in Mount Airy. The third pro to living in Mount Airy is the amenities. And by amenities, I'm talking about the shopping, the dining, the events, and what the city has to offer. Unlike many small towns in Maryland, Mount Airy actually has a historic downtown with some great local places to eat, grab a drink, shop, and walk around. It's not too big, but definitely worth going to. It's a nice break from the chain restaurants and stores that you'll find elsewhere. And there are a ton of places to eat in Mount Airy, which is a huge benefit of living here, a huge amenity. There are local restaurants, well over a dozen really great local restaurants, and of course, chain restaurants, but one of my favorite local places to go is Carter Q. It's a really good barbecue place right near historic downtown, and we actually use it to cater our annual client appreciation event. It's that good, everybody loves it. But if you're looking for your fast food, you're going to have that here too. You have your McDonald's, your Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, Jersey Mike's, Subway, Five Guys. I mean, anything you can really think of that are the major chains, you're going to find that in Mount Airy as well. There's also a Walmart in town, which is really convenient, and 3 grocery stores, and I guess 4 if you consider Walmart a grocery store. A lot of people shop there for their groceries as well, so a ton of options. And you also have the things you absolutely need in town, like your post office. You have a great library in town, and a ton of local parks and recreation areas, so there are a lot of things to do right in Mount Airy itself. And as far as events go, the town keeps a pretty packed events calendar. If you look online right now, almost every week is going to have something to do, but some of the major events that they have throughout the year are the 4th of July parade, the fireworks, the Mount Airy Carnival, and the Fall Festival. But they have a lot of farmers markets throughout the year, outdoor movie nights, and there's always something to do in Mount Airy throughout the year. But again, that's not the only reason that people move to Mount Airy. One of the biggest reasons, and the fourth pro to living in Mount Airy, is the schools. And that's because, yes, there are 4 counties that cover Mount Airy, but the majority of the town is Frederick and Carroll counties. There's very few houses. I mean, a handful of houses in the Howard and Montgomery County side. So when we're talking about schools, we're talking about Frederick County Public Schools and Carroll County Public Schools. And if you look on niche.com, all of the schools here, the public schools, have a ranking of an A or a B. So most of my clients that are searching for a place for good schools, that's their requirement. They want A or B schools. And no matter which side of Mount Airy you live on, you're going to have that. Now, those are the positive things about living in Mount Airy, but this town is not without its downsides. So let's dive into the cons so you can determine if it's really the right place for you to live. And I'd say the first con to living in Mount Airy is the limited nightlife. There is just not much to do here after 7 or 8 p.m. I mean, it's a more family-oriented town. It's a quieter town. It is not somewhere where you have a ton of bars open down on Main Street all throughout the night. There's not even a movie theater here. Yes, there's a bowling alley, but it's usually booked with local bowling clubs, so you really can't even get in there that often. So when you're living in Mount Airy, you're most likely going to go and do your activities elsewhere. But the good thing is there's a lot around. You have Frederick nearby with a ton of things to do. You can go to the movies there, plenty of options. You also have Rio and Gaithersburg, which has a ton of options as well. You have Topgolf and Germantown nearby. I mean, there's plenty of things to do within 20, 30 minutes from Mount Airy. But that's not the only downside. The second con to living in Mount Airy is the limited public transportation. And this is important for a lot of people. And it's one of the major deciding factors of moving to Mount Airy or not, because so many places in Frederick County and in Montgomery County, they have public transportation. They have bus routes. They even have MARC train stations or a metro station. But Mount Airy doesn't have that. And that's probably the downside of being at the intersection of 4 counties. It's like a no man's land out there. No one really wants to claim it because it's kind of far for a bus route to take it anywhere else. So if you're living in Mount Airy, you are going to be commuting by car, or else it's just not the right place for you. And the third con of living in Mount Airy is that there are limited job opportunities. Like I said, there's not a lot of employment centers here in Mount Airy. It's not a major employment hub. It's mostly retail. There's some commercial, some doctor's offices, but those are a lot of part-time jobs. And if you're looking for a career, Mount Airy just doesn't have a lot of that here. Almost everyone that lives in Mount Airy is going to work elsewhere. Maybe they even work remote. But as far as jobs go, it's very limited in town. But remember, that's why people move here, is they want the town itself. They don't care about the jobs because they're trying to get away from where their jobs are because it's so expensive where the jobs are. So Mount Airy is that ideal location to escape it all, feel like they're in the small town, get more for their money as far as housing goes, and they're happy with that. And speaking of the real estate market, that unfortunately brings us to our fourth con of living in Mount Airy, and that is the real estate market. And I say it's a con, not because of the prices, but because of the competition and the lack of supply. And yes, this is an overarching theme across Maryland, is the limited supply, and we have seen that growing over the recent months. You can check out my Maryland real estate market update and see how it is trending towards more inventory across the board. But Mount Airy already doesn't have that many housing options. You have single family homes, townhouses, and some apartment rentals. And a lot of the houses in Mount Airy are in rural areas if you go outside of downtown. So when you have a lot of people looking to move here because they see that value for their money, you have a lot of competition, and that can be a major downside if you're not prepared for that. Now, that's something that my clients do not worry about because I prep them for the market. I let them know what they're going to have to do to compete, how they're going to win that house that they really love when they do find it. So if that is you and that starts to worry you when you hear about competition, do not worry. That's exactly what I'm here to do. I'm tracking the market. I know what's helping your offer win and what's not. I know what's needed. I know when to not overspend, and I know when you really need to go all in on a house. So if you have those questions, that's what I'm here for. So what should you look to spend if you're moving to Mount Airy? Well, let's just take apartments and condos out of the mix because there aren't any for sale. You only have apartment rentals here. But if you're looking to move into a townhouse in Mount Airy, there's also limited options. Maybe a dozen of these sell every year. And the median price point at the time of this video is $393,000. Now, the true bread and butter homes in Mount Airy are the single family detached homes. There are some nice planned communities and rural homes that are single family detached as well. And at the time of this video, the median price point is $650,000. And if you're curious what neighborhoods you should be checking out, where you can find the specific type of home you're looking for, again, reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. Whether you're looking to move in 2 months or 2 years, it is never too soon to hop on a call with me. And the best way to connect with me is going into the description or in the the comments below and clicking on the link to schedule a one-on-one consultation. We'll get a plan together to make your move go as smoothly as possible. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you stay up to date on all of my videos about moving to Maryland.